You know that feeling when you scroll through a dozen soundbars, each one promising cinema-level immersion and deep, thumping bass, only to get one that sounds like it's playing through a tinny TV speaker? I've been there, and I've heard the same complaints from friends who thought a cheap upgrade would finally make movie night feel like a theater. The problem is, the product photos on the site look sleek, the marketing copy is polished, but the real test is how it handles dialogue in a crowded family room, whether the subwoofer actually stays in the corner without rattling the whole house, and if the remote doesn't feel like a relic. That's why I'm taking a hard look at the Samsung HWB630F 3.1 channel soundbar before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of setup most people have. If you've got a living room that's about 12 by 15 feet, a TV that's anywhere from 55 to 85 inches, and you're using the TV's built-in speakers most nights, you're probably not getting the full audio experience you want. The HWB630F is marketed as a 3.1 channel system, which means you get a left-right stereo pair, a center channel, and a wireless subwoofer. What that translates to in everyday use is clearer dialogue, a bit more punch in action scenes, and a low-frequency presence that you can actually feel without it sounding like a rumble that shakes picture frames. When I set it up with a Samsung 85-inch Crystal UHD TV, which, by the way, has the same 2025 model design language, the first thing I noticed was the simplicity of the connection. The soundbar plugs straight into the TV's HDMI ARC port, and the wireless subwoofer just clicks into place on a nearby shelf. There's no separate optical cable to hunt for, and the Samsung One Connect hub on the TV handles the handshake without any extra prompts. In practice, that means you're not juggling 3 different remotes. The soundbar remote works for volume and mode switching, while the TV remote still controls source selection. The remote itself feels a little light, but the button layout is intuitive enough that you don't have to stare at the screen to find the dialogue mode, which is one of the features I care about most. Dialogue clarity is where the HWB630F earns its keep. The unit uses Samsung's optimized sound for every scene processing, and in my testing with a Netflix thriller and a family sitcom, the spoken lines stayed crisp even when the background music swelled. The dedicated center channel does the heavy lifting here, pulling the vocals away from the left-right stereo mix. If you've ever been annoyed by who said what moments during a fast-paced drama, this soundbar makes those moments less frequent. The DTS Virtual X algorithm also adds a pseudo-surround effect that isn't over the top. It gives you a sense of space without turning your living room into a chaotic sound field. In a small apartment, that can be a pleasant surprise. You get a hint of height and side cues without needing extra speakers. Bass performance is a mixed bag. The wireless subwoofer is compact, about the size of a small Bluetooth speaker, and it's designed to sit unobtrusively on a shelf or under a console. In a medium-sized room, the low end is firm enough to give action scenes that satisfying thump you expect from a home theater system, but it won't shake the walls. On the other hand, if you're a bass enthusiast who loves the rumble of a true 5.1 system with a larger sub, you'll notice the difference. The sub's output caps out around 80 dB SPL, which is decent for everyday viewing but will feel underpowered for a heavy-hitting sci-fi soundtrack at high volumes. The good news is the sub's internal DSP lets you dial the level up a notch without distortion, so you can push it a bit further if you're watching a blockbuster with a lot of explosions. Room size matters for any sound system, and Samsung seems to have calibrated the HWB630F for typical living rooms. The soundbar's built-in speakers have a 2-inch tweeter and a 5-inch mid-bass driver, which together create a sweet spot that extends about 3 meters in front of the TV. If you sit farther back, you'll start to lose some of the surround illusion, and the bass will feel less anchored. For a larger home theater setup, you'd probably need a separate surround system or a soundbar with true upfiring drivers. But for most families who watch from a couch a couple of feet away, the coverage feels adequate. Another practical consideration is the streaming and TV connectivity. The HWB630F doesn't have its own smart platform. It relies on the TV's audio output. That means you can stream from any app on the TV: Netflix, Disney+, YouTube and the soundbar will process the audio in real time. I did notice a slight latency when I switched from a game console to the TV's built-in apps, but the lag was under half.